You have to try this. It's the tiramisu. I saved a piece just for you. My wife of 5 years, Laura, was at the Apex Innovations Thanksgiving Gala in front of hundreds of employees. With a dazzling smile, she held a small forkful of the dessert up to the mouth of a male intern. The intern, a kid named Leo Peterson, blushed slightly as he opened his mouth, a picture of shy enjoyment. The room fell quiet. Hundreds of eyes swiveled to me. Pity, scorn, morbid curiosity. I was the biggest joke in the room. I smiled. In the next second, my arm shot out, wrapping around the slender waist of my assistant, Chloe Sullivan. Under her stunned gaze, I leaned in and kissed her right there in front of everyone. Dead silence. You could have heard a pin drop. If Laura feeding the intern was a pebble tossed into a lake, my kiss was a depth charge. Everyone was shell-shocked. Chloe's body went rigid, her eyes wide, forgetting to struggle. Her lips were soft, with a hint of sweet red wine. I didn't deepen it. It was just a press of the lips, over in a second. But I didn't release my hold on her waist. I turned my head and looked at Laura. The smile was frozen on her face. The hand holding the fork was still suspended in midair, her expression shifting from bewilderment to shock, and finally to a blaze of incredulous fury. "Ethan, are you insane?" she shrieked, her voice shattering the ballroom's fragile peace. The intern, Leo, looked pale as a ghost, standing there helplessly like a child who'd been caught doing something wrong. I ignored Laura's screeching, simply meeting her gaze. "Right back at you." My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to her ears. Laura was trembling with rage, pointing at me, speechless. The surrounding employees finally snapped out of it, their whispers starting up like a rustle of dry leaves. Complex gazes darted between me, Laura, Chloe, and the intern. What show? Just spectacular. This was probably the most explosive drama in the company's history. I released Chloe. As if waking from a dream, her cheeks flushed a deep crimson. She took half a step back, putting distance between us, her head bowed. I could feel the slight tremor in her body. "Sorry I used you," I murmured to her. Chloe shook her head without a word, her lips pressed into a thin, tight line. "Ethan, you owe me an explanation right now." Laura finally found her voice, storming up to me with fire in her eyes. "An explanation?" I let out a short, sharp laugh. "What kind of explanation do you want? Or maybe you should go first." "What was that? Feeding another man right in front of my face." "He's just a kid, a new intern. What's wrong with me looking out for him?" Laura said, her voice dripping with self-righteousness. "A kid." I repeated the word, my eyes shifting to the boy, Leo. He looked to be in his early 20s, young for sure, but not some clueless child. A grown man, accepting food hand-fed by his boss's wife, and his expression wasn't one of awkwardness, but a subtle, unmistakable hint of flirtation. "Director Vance, your methods for looking out for your subordinates are unique," I said, not bothering to hide the sarcasm in my voice. "You're being irrational." When she saw she couldn't win the argument, Laura changed tactics. "You kissed your assistant in public. What does that leave my reputation? Our reputation as a couple? Did you think about our reputation when you were feeding him?" I shot back. "That's not the same thing." "How is it not the same?" I pressed, moving a step closer. "Was my kiss more distasteful? Or was your feeding session more high class?" The murmuring around us grew louder. A few of the senior executives hurried over to play peacemaker. "Ethan, Laura, let's all calm down. It's Thanksgiving, a time for harmony. That's right, whatever it is, you can talk about it at home. Don't let the employees see you like this." I looked at their phony, smiling faces and felt a wave of disgust. There was no reason to stay at this sham of a party any longer. "Chloe, drive me home," I said, then turned and walked away without giving Laura another glance. "Ethan, you get back here," Laura screamed from behind me. I ignored her, walking straight toward the ballroom exit. Chloe hesitated for a moment before hurrying after me to hold the door open. The second I stepped out, the noise was cut off behind me. The world was quiet again. In the underground parking garage, Chloe started the car in silence. The atmosphere inside was suffocatingly tense. I leaned back against the headrest and closed my eyes, the scene from the party replaying in my mind. The cloying tenderness in Laura's eyes, the intern's mix of shyness and triumph. Every detail was a needle piercing my heart. 5 years of marriage. I had been good to Laura, I knew that. From having nothing to founding this company, she was with me through the hard times, and I made sure she enjoyed the good ones. Vice president of the company, all our household expenses, helping out her family. I never said no to anything. I thought we were partners, a team that had weathered the storm together. But tonight's scene was a sharp, ringing slap across my face, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. That wasn't just looking out for a subordinate. That look, that gesture, it was filled with an intimacy that ignored everyone else in the room. She had even forgotten that I was sitting at the head table, right beside her. The car moved smoothly down the road toward home. Chloe didn't say a word, only occasionally flicking her eyes to the rearview mirror to glance at me, her expression worried. She had been my assistant for 3 years, incredibly competent, always composed. Tonight, she had lost her cool too. But then again, any woman would be shaken after being forcibly kissed by her boss in a situation like that. "I'm sorry," I said again. "You don't have to apologize, sir." Chloe finally spoke, her voice a little hoarse. "I know you had a reason." I opened my eyes, watching the city lights streak past the window. Regardless, I was out of line. "Is there anything you need me to do?" Chloe didn't pursue the topic, instead asking a more practical question. I appreciated her intelligence. She knew I didn't need platitudes. I needed solutions. "Run a background check on that intern, Leo Peterson." My voice was ice. "I want everything you can find on him. Family, social connections, and how he got into the company." Our hiring process was strict. For an intern to get that kind of special treatment from a director like Laura, there had to be more to the story. "Of course, sir," Chloe responded crisply. "The report will be on your desk before you get in tomorrow." The car pulled up to our house. I told Chloe she could go and walked into the cold, empty building alone. It wasn't long before Laura's car pulled in. The car door slammed, and the sharp clicking of her heels on the pavement sounded like angry punctuation marks. The moment she walked in, she hurled her purse onto the couch. "Ethan, you've really grown a backbone, haven't you? Humiliating me in public like that." She was like a lioness, roaring at me. I sat on the sofa, not even bothering to lift my eyelids. "Aren't you tired?" "Tired? I'm about to have a heart attack because of you. You need to tell me right now, what the hell is going on between you and that Chloe? Have you two been sleeping together all along? Whatever is going on with her, you're the one who pushed me to it, aren't you?" I finally looked up, my gaze cold. "You're all over another man right in front of me, and you expect me to just sit there and smile? I told you, he's just a kid. I see him as a little brother." "A little brother?" I laughed. "What kind of little brother needs you to personally feed him? Laura, who are you trying to fool? Your mind is so filthy." I just felt sorry for him, all alone in the city during the holidays. "Is it really that big of a deal?" She was still arguing, still trying to shift all the blame onto me. I looked at the face I had once loved, and now it just seemed foreign and pathetic. "Sorry for him? There are hundreds of people at this company. Plenty of them are in tougher spots than him. I don't see you going around feeding them one by one." "You." Laura was cornered, her face flushed with anger. "Fine. I don't want to fight," I said, standing up and rubbing my temples wearily. "I'm tired. I'm sleeping in the study tonight." With that, I turned to go upstairs. "Ethan, stop right there." Laura scrambled after me, grabbing my arm. "You are not sleeping in the study. You tell me right now. You've been wanting to leave me for a while, haven't you? And tonight was just the perfect excuse." Her nails dug into my arm. It hurt. I wrenched my arm free. "Laura, stop being ridiculous. You know damn well who's trying to do what here." I looked at her, my voice low and steady. "Don't take me for a fool." Done. I gave her no more chances to argue, walking straight into the study and locking the door behind me. I could hear her pounding on the door and shouting curses. I ignored it all, walked to the window, and lit a cigarette. As the smoke swirled around me, my heart grew colder and harder. Some things, once they crack, can never be put back together again. This was going to be a long night. The next morning, I arrived at the office half an hour early. A manila envelope was sitting neatly on my desk. That was Chloe's style. Efficient, precise, never procrastinating. I opened the envelope and pulled out the few pages inside. The first page was Leo Peterson's basic information. Leo Peterson, 22, a senior finance major at the University of Washington. He joined the company 3 months ago through a campus recruitment program as an intern in the investment department. His resume was as clean as a blank sheet of paper. I flipped directly to the last page, which detailed his family connections. Father, Greg Peterson. Mother, Lisa Hale. When I saw the name Greg Peterson, my pupils contracted. I'd heard that name before. Years ago, in one of Laura's old photo albums. He was her college boyfriend, her first love. In the photo, a young Greg Peterson and Laura were holding each other tightly, their smiles radiant. Laura had told me he moved abroad after college, and they lost touch. So, not only had he come back, but he had a 22-year-old son, and that son was now working in my company as the little brother that Laura was looking out for. I held the file, the irony a bitter taste in my mouth. The so-called feeling sorry for him, the treating him like a little brother. It was all bullshit. She wasn't looking out for the intern, Leo. She was indulging in her own faded youth, in some pathetic, lingering fantasy about her first love. I slammed the file down on the desk, my chest heaving, a hot rage shooting up my spine. No wonder her gaze was so tender when she looked at him. No wonder she would do something so intimate. She was looking through Leo, seeing someone else. And what was I, Ethan Hayes, in her eyes? A husband to be publicly humiliated after he became successful? A tool to provide a platform for her and her ex-boyfriend's son? A wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I picked up the internal line and dialed Chloe. Get Leo Peterson and his department head in my office. Now. Right away, sir. After hanging up, I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and stared at the endless river of traffic below, trying to calm myself. Anger wouldn't solve anything. What I needed to do now was rip this hypocritical mask off. Soon, there was a knock on the door. Come in. The door opened, and Wallace, the head of the investment department, walked in with Leo Peterson, both of them looking nervous. Mr. Hayes, you wanted to see us? Wallace asked cautiously. My gaze went past him to Leo. Today, he lacked the shy demeanor of last night, replaced by an obvious tension and anxiety. Leo Peterson, right? I began. Why, yes, Mr. Hayes, he stammered. How are you finding the internship? Settling in okay? My tone was neutral, betraying no emotion. It's great. My colleagues and managers have been really supportive. Is that so? I drew out the words. Especially Director Vance, I hear. She's been particularly supportive, right? The color drained from Leo's face. Wallace's expression changed instantly, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He was a smart man. He knew this was serious. Mr. Hayes, is there some kind of misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? I picked up the file from my desk, walked over to Leo, and clapped him on the shoulder. Kid, in the corporate world, it's good to have someone looking out for you. But some favors, they come with a price. I held the file in front of him. Your father's name is Greg Peterson, isn't it? Leo stared at the name on the paper, his body trembling. He was utterly speechless. Wallace stood to the side, heart pounding, not daring to breathe. I'm curious, I said, staring into Leo's eyes, my voice slow and deliberate. When Director Vance brought you into the company, did she happen to mention that she and I are married? Leo's lips quivered, but no words came out. The answer was obvious. Just then, the office door was thrown open. Laura burst in, clearly having heard what was happening. She must have run all the way here. Her hair was a mess. Ethan, what do you think you're doing? Seeing the scene, she rushed over and shoved Leo behind her, like a mother hen protecting her chick. Don't take it out on a kid. If you have a problem, you deal with me. Seeing her so protective, I laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. Deal with you? Fine. I held up the file. Director Vance, why don't you start by explaining why Mr. Greg Peterson's son is working at our company? And don't give me that bullshit about him being pitiful or your little brother. Laura's face paled when she saw the file. She never thought I'd find out about Leo's background so quickly. Panic flickered in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by defiance. So what if he is? She jutted out her chin, stubborn to the last. Greg and I were classmates. His son is interning at our company. Is there anything wrong with me, as an elder, looking out for him? Classmates? I savored the word. Laura, we've been married for 5 years. Is there a single one of your classmates I haven't met? Don't need to get out your old photo albums so everyone can remember exactly who this classmate is. My words were a knife, twisting precisely in her weak spot. The color of Laura's face shifted from red to white, then to a sickly green. It was quite a spectacle. Behind her, Leo looked like he was about to collapse. Wallace, the department head, wished he could just turn invisible. He finally understood what kind of mess he'd stumbled into. Ethan, don't you go too far. Laura was furious now. This is a business, not your home. Don't you dare bring your personal drama into the office. Personal drama? I took a step toward her, my voice low enough for only the two of us to hear. You get your ex-boyfriend's son a job here, you make eyes at him all day, and you feed him with your own hands in front of everyone. And now you're telling me this is personal? I did not, she retorted reflexively, but her voice lacked conviction. You're telling me you look at him and you don't think about his father? Every word was a nail, hammering into her heart. Laura swayed, her lips losing all color. I had hit the mark. All her masks and excuses were crumbling in the face of the truth. Enough, she shrieked, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. So what if I was thinking of him? That's all in the past. What's the point of dredging it up? Ethan, can't you be a little more mature? She had the audacity to call me immature. I laughed, a humorless sound. I don't need you to judge my maturity. I dropped the smile, my face hardening. Now let's talk business. My gaze shifted to Wallace and the trembling Leo. Wallace, you're familiar with the company's code of conduct regarding hiring and nepotism, are you not? Why, yes, sir. I am, Wallace stammered, sweat pouring down his face. Good. Then tell me, does a director using her position to hire someone with whom she has a special personal relationship and failing to disclose it count as a violation? Wallace looked like he was about to cry. He glanced at me, then at Laura, unable to say a word. I'll answer for you, I said, not wanting to make it harder on him. It does. And it's a serious violation. I looked at Leo one last time. As for you, you're fired. Effective immediately. Pack your things and get out of my building. No, you can't do that. Laura screamed, once again shielding Leo. He's just an intern. He didn't know anything. He didn't know? I sneered. He didn't know his father was your unforgettable first love? He didn't know you should have recused yourself? Laura, are you insulting my intelligence or everyone's? Ethan, you have no right to object to my decision. I cut her off, my voice laced with an authority that allowed no argument. I'm the CEO of this company. Here, my Wort is love. I turned to Wallace, my tone hardening. Wallace, you will personally see to this. If you can't get it done, you can clear out your desk too. That jolted him. Wallace didn't hesitate any longer, grabbing the shell-shocked Leo and pulling him toward the door. Yes, Mr. Hayes, I'll handle it right away. Don't you move. Laura tried to stop them, but I seized her wrist. Laura, don't make me lose what little respect I have left for you. My grip was strong, and it was hurting her. She struggled but couldn't break free. The office was empty except for the two of us, facing off. The air crackled with tension. Ethan, do you really have to make this so ugly? Laura's eyes were red, her voice taking on a tearful edge as she started to play the victim. Ugly? It was always going to be ugly, starting from the day you brought Leo Peterson into this company. Are you going to destroy our 5 years of marriage over an outsider? An outsider? I let go of her wrist and took a step back, creating distance between us. Right now, between him and you, I think I'm the outsider here. That sentence shattered her last line of defense. She stared at me, stunned, her lips moving but making no sound. You think I don't know what you're thinking? I continued. You think because we built this company together, it would collapse without you. You think my assets are so tied up with yours that I wouldn't dare to call your bluff. That's why you're so arrogant, so shameless. With every sentence I spoke, Laura's face grew paler. Laura, you're far too confident. I walked behind my desk, sat down, and picked up the internal phone, dialing the legal department. Have Mr. Miller come to my office. Then, I looked up, meeting Laura's ashen face with a calm expression. Since we're done with business, let's talk about the divorce. Divorce? Laura looked as if she'd heard the world's most absurd joke. She stared blankly for a second, then burst into shrill laughter. Ethan, you want to divorce me? What right do you have to divorce me? Her laughter was laced with contempt and ridicule. Because I fed an intern a piece of cake? Because he's my ex-boyfriend's son? You want to divorce me over something so pathetic? She stalked to my desk, planting her hands on its surface and leaning forward, looking down at me. Don't you forget how this company got started. If my father hadn't put up that $50,000 in seed money, you'd still be working for someone else right now. Without me, there would be no Apex Innovations. At least half of everything you have today is mine. You want a divorce? Fine. I get half the company. All your properties, stocks, cash, half of everything. Do you have the guts to do it? She was certain I didn't. She thought she had me by the throat. I looked at her face, flushed with agitation, and felt a profound sense of sorrow. So this is what it had come down to between us. Money, shares, assets. 5 years of a supposed partnership, worthless in the face of greed. A knock at the door and Mr. Miller from legal walked in. Mr. Hayes, you wanted to see me. Miller, have a seat. I gestured to the chair opposite me. Miller took in the tense atmosphere and Laura's furious expression. He instantly knew something was wrong, but he asked no questions, simply sitting down quietly. Ethan, what's the meaning of this? You calling a lawyer to try and intimidate me? Laura crossed her arms, sneering. I'm not trying to intimidate you, I said calmly. I'm serious. I turned to the lawyer. Mr. Miller, I want to file for divorce from Ms. Vance. From this moment on, you will handle all matters related to the division of our assets. Miller's expression turned grave. He adjusted his glasses. Mr. Hayes, are you certain? This will involve a significant change in company equity and could have a major impact on the business. I'm certain. My voice held no trace of hesitation. Very well. Miller nodded, taking out a notebook and pen, shifting into work mode. Ms. Vance, since Mr. Hayes has initiated this, we can begin a preliminary discussion about asset division. According to marital law, assets acquired during the marriage are, in principle, divided equally. Apex Innovations was founded after your marriage, so it is considered marital property. Equally? In your dreams. Laura cut Miller off, pointing at me with hatred in her eyes. Ethan, let me tell you something. You want a divorce? Fine. I want 51% of Apex Innovations. I want controlling interest. Otherwise, you won't get a single penny. I'll drag this out until you rot. She was unhinged. That pathetic mix of wounded pride and vindictiveness had driven her insane. Miller frowned, clearly shocked by her outrageous demand. Ms. Vance, your request is likely not compliant with the law. I don't care about the law. This is what I deserve. Laura screamed hysterically. I'm the one who turned him from a broke nobody into the CEO he is today. He thinks he can just kick me to the curb now. Not a chance. I didn't argue. I just watched her perform, my expression cold. When she finally ran out of steam, I spoke slowly. Laura, have you forgotten? That $50,000 from your father was a loan, not an investment. Laura froze. I signed a promissory note. It's in black and white. I continued. 3 years ago, I paid your father back $200,000, principal plus interest. You're not going to pretend you didn't know about that, are you? The color drained from her face. Of course she knew. At the time, she had complained that I paid back too much, saying we were all family and didn't need to be so formal. As for the company, I tapped my fingers lightly on the desk. The legal representative of Apex Innovations is me. The registered capital was funded entirely by me, personally. You, from start to finish, have only ever been an executive, not a shareholder. Impossible, Laura shrieked. The company charter says we are co-founders. Co-founder is just a title. It doesn't confer equity, I said, ruthlessly shattering her final illusion. If you don't believe me, you can have Mr. Miller pull up the company's official registration documents. The list of shareholders has only ever had one name on it, mine. Laura was completely stunned. She looked at me as if for the first time, with an expression of utter bewilderment. She had always believed the company belonged to both of us, that she had an equal say. She had never imagined that from the very beginning, I had protected myself from her, or rather, from her family. Ethan, you've been playing me all this time. Her voice trembled, thick with a sense of betrayal. I wasn't playing you. I was protecting what's mine, I corrected her. Just like you've always held my dad's money over my head as a way to control me. So there it was. The trust between us had been gone for a long time. We were both just hedging our bets. How pathetic. Miller spoke up at the right moment. Ms. Vance, if that's the case, the situation is much clearer. Apex Innovations was derived from Mr. Hayes's premarital assets. In a division of property, you may not be able to claim ownership. No, impossible. Laura stumbled back, hitting the sofa behind her. Her greatest leverage had just evaporated. As for the properties, cars, and savings we acquired during the marriage, I continued, looking at her pale face, those can be divided equally, according to the law. I have 3 properties in my name. You can choose one. Additionally, I'll give you $2 million in cash as compensation. I wasn't trying to leave her with nothing. We had been married, after all. But Laura clearly didn't see it that way. She saw it as an insult. 2 million? One house. Ethan, are you tossing scraps to a beggar? She jerked her head up, her eyes burning with a furious hatred. I gave you 5 years of my youth. I was going to have your children. Oh, that's right. I didn't even get around to having your kids before you decided to kick me out. Suddenly, she brought up children. We hadn't had kids in 5 years of marriage. At first, I felt the company was too new, that I was too busy. Later, when things stabilized, I brought it up a few times, but she always refused, saying she was career-focused and didn't want to be tied down by a family so early. Now, even that was a weapon to be used against me. Ethan, I am not divorcing you. She seemed to reach a decision, a strange smile on her face. I won't let you and that little slut get what you want. As long as I don't sign, you will never be free of me. We can torture each other. Let's see who breaks first. She was resorting to stonewalling. I frowned. This was going to be more difficult than I thought. Ms. Vance, if an agreement cannot be reached, Mr. Hayes can file a petition with the court. If the court determines the marriage has irretrievably broken down, it will grant the divorce, Miller reminded her. Irretrievably broken down? Who says? Laura shot back instantly. Our marriage is perfectly fine. We attended the Thanksgiving gala together just yesterday. Right, honey? She called me honey in a sickeningly sweet voice that made my stomach turn. This woman had lost her mind. I didn't want to waste another breath on her. Mr. Miller, I'm leaving the rest to you. My only requirement is to get this divorce finalized as quickly as possible. I'm willing to be flexible on the financial settlement. Ethan, I stood up, grabbed my jacket, ready to leave this suffocating office. Where are you going? Laura blocked the door. Do I need to report my whereabouts to you, Director Vance? I deliberately emphasized her title. Are you going to see that little fox? She stared at me, her eyes wild. So what if I am? I provoked her intentionally. I'll kill you. Laura lunged at me like a feral animal, her nails aimed at my face. I sidestepped, grabbing her wrist and pushing her away. She lost her balance and fell to the floor. She just sat there, staring at me, and then burst into tears. Heart-wrenching, theatrical sobs. Ethan, how could you do this to me? How could you? She wailed, listing my supposed crimes, as if I were the villain. Miller stood by, completely at a loss. I watched her, my face a mask of indifference. I felt nothing. The death of the heart is a quiet affair. This must be what it feels like. I walked around her and pulled open the office door. Outside, Chloe stood with a worried expression. She had clearly heard the shouting, but hadn't dared to enter without my permission. She looked relieved to see me. Sir, are you okay? I'm fine. I straightened my collar, which Laura had wrinkled. Send out a memo. Effective immediately, Director Vance is suspended from all duties at this company. You will temporarily take over her responsibilities, cutting off the head of the snake. If she wanted to drag this out, I would make it impossible for her to remain in the company. Yes, sir. Chloe immediately complied. Inside the office, Laura's crying stopped abruptly. She stared at me in disbelief, as if she couldn't fathom that I would be so ruthless. I didn't look at her again. With Chloe, I walked straight to the elevator. I knew this war was just beginning. The next few days at the company passed in a strange, tense quiet. Laura didn't show up. I had the legal department send the suspension notice and the divorce papers directly to the house. I heard that when she received them, she smashed everything she could get her hands on. She called me countless times. I didn't answer a single one. Then she started sending texts, the content shifting from curses to threats, and finally, to pleas. I read every one, then deleted them with a blank expression. Chloe's competence was truly remarkable. In just a few days, she had sorted through all of Laura's work and taken over smoothly, without causing any disruption to business operations. The investment department staff, especially Laura's former favorites, were initially anxious. But after witnessing Chloe's decisive methods and professional expertise, which far surpassed Laura's, they were quickly won over. The entire company seemed to be slowly Delora-izing itself. This was a relief, but I didn't dare let my guard down. I knew Laura too well. She was not someone who gave up easily. Her current silence meant she was plotting a bigger storm. That afternoon, while I was reviewing the quarterly financial report Chloe had prepared, a call came in from an unknown number. I answered it casually. Is this Ethan Hayes? This is your Aunt Brenda, Laura's mother. A sharp, shrill female voice came through the line. My mother-in-law, a woman who had looked down on me from the first day I met Laura. Brenda, what can I do for you? My tone was flat. What can you do for me? Of course there's something. I'm asking you. Why are you divorcing our Laura? What did she do wrong? You ungrateful piece of trash. The moment the call connected, she launched into a tirade. Let me tell you, Ethan, if our Laura hadn't been blind enough to fall for you, you'd still be laying bricks on some construction site. Now you're rich, you're successful, and you think you could just kick her to the curb? Not on my watch. The same old story, as if everything I had today was a gift from their family. Brenda, this is between Laura and me. I think it's best if we handle it ourselves. I said, my patience wearing thin. Handle it yourselves? If you could handle it, would Laura be crying at home every day? Would she be wasting away to nothing? Her voice shot up. I'm telling you, you need to give me an answer today, or I'm not done with you. What kind of answer do you want? You go home right now and apologize to Laura. You rip up those divorce papers. Then you transfer half of the company's shares to her name. If you do that, our Laura might consider forgiving you. Her audacious demands made me laugh. Brenda, are you dreaming? What's that attitude? Ethan, don't push it. You believe me when I say I'll come to your company tomorrow and make a scene? I'll let everyone see what kind of ungrateful bastard you are. She was starting her usual act. This was their go-to tactic. Crying, shouting, threatening. In the past, for Laura's sake, for the sake of peace, I had always backed down. Not anymore. Do what you want, I said coldly and hung up. Then I blocked her number. I knew trouble was coming. Sure enough, the next morning, the front desk called. A woman claiming to be my mother-in-law was in the lobby with a few other people, shouting and demanding to see me. I rubbed my temples and told Chloe on the phone, have security escort them out. If they refuse to leave, call the police. Sir, wouldn't that make things worse? Chloe asked, concerned. I want to get worse, I said, my voice glacial. It has to get big to be resolved once and for all. I wanted everyone to see what this mother-daughter duo was really like. I wanted to see how Laura could continue to play the victim on social media after her mother's vulgar display was made public. Chloe was silent for a few seconds, then she understood. Okay, sir, I'll handle it immediately. I hung up and walked to the window looking down. Soon, I saw a few security guards surrounding a middle-aged woman who was flailing on the ground. A few other people who looked like relatives were pointing and shouting, drawing a crowd of onlookers. My mother-in-law had certainly not disappointed me. She sat on the floor, slapping her thighs and wailing. There's no justice. My son-in-law got rich, and now he's throwing out his wife. My daughter suffered so much for him, and now that he's made it, he's found a mistress and wants to kick my daughter out with nothing. Everyone come look. This ungrateful snake. Her acting was even better than Laura's. The uninformed crowd started pointing at our building, some even taking out their phones to record. Chloe handled it decisively. After security failed to reason with them, she called the police. The police arrived quickly. After a brief assessment, they tried to lead my mother-in-law and her group away, but she wasn't going anywhere, clinging to a lobby pillar for dear life, screaming curses. Finally, several officers had to physically pry her off and force her into a patrol car. The spectacle was over, but the storm online was just beginning. Someone had posted the video online with a highly inflammatory caption. Shocking. Apex Innovations CEO dumps wife after making fortune. Mother-in-law assaulted by security and arrested for seeking justice. The video went viral. The comment section was a flood of attacks against me. What a scumbag. Money really does corrupt people. I feel so bad for the wife. She stood by him when he had nothing, and this is how he repays her. That mistress has some nerve calling the cops on the wife's mom. Boycott Apex Innovations. Run this scumbag and his mistress out of business. Public opinion was completely one-sided. The company's PR department was overwhelmed with calls, and our stock price began to dip. Laura's move was vicious. She was trying to crush me with public opinion, to force me to surrender. Chloe knocked and entered, her expression grim. Sir, the online sentiment is extremely negative. The PR department is under immense pressure and wants to know if we should issue a statement. No, I said, waving my hand, but a statement now would just be seen as a weak defense. It would only add fuel to the fire. I looked at the vile comments on the screen, but my eyes were calm. Let her make her noise. The bigger the spectacle, the better. The higher she climbs, the harder she'll fall. So, we do nothing. No. I looked up at Chloe. I need you to do something for me. Of course, sir. I need you to pull Laura's recent bank statements, as well as her mother's, Brenda Vance's, account activity. Also, I need you to find me the best defamation law firm in the city. If she wanted to play games, I would play. She used public opinion as her weapon. I would use the law as mine. I wasn't just going to divorce her. I was going to make her and her mother pay for what they did today. Chloe saw the cold fury in my eyes and nodded firmly. I'll get on it right away. She turned and left, her movements sharp and efficient. Watching her go, I felt a strange new sensation. This woman, she always seemed to understand my intentions, always stood firmly by my side. When the whole world had turned against me, she was the only one I could trust. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Laura. See that, Ethan? This is what happens when you cross me. I suggest you come crawling back and beg for my forgiveness. Otherwise, I have much worse things in store for you. I will ruin you. You will lose everything. Attached was a selfie of her and her mother outside the police station, both of them smiling triumphantly. I looked at the picture and slowly, a cold smile spread across my face. Lose everything? Laura, you don't know me all, and you overestimate yourself far too much. The real show is just about to begin. The story of Brenda Vance causing a scene at Apex continued to explode online. Pushed by an unseen hand, all sorts of exaggerated insider details began to surface. I was painted as a modern-day scumbag who abandoned his loyal wife, and Chloe was branded a home-wrecking mistress. The company's stock took a hit. A few business partners called, subtly trying to gauge the situation. Laura had half achieved her goal. She had successfully created a massive problem for me. She thought I would be overwhelmed, that I would bow down and beg. However, I did nothing. I even gave a direct order to the PR department. No one was to issue any public response, either from the company or from me personally. I was like a spectator, coolly observing the farce. To the outside world, my silence was an admission of guilt. To Laura, it was a sign that I was out of options. She grew even more arrogant. She began giving exclusive interviews to online media outlets, tearfully recounting my crimes. She portrayed me as an ungrateful bastard who used his father-in-law's money to get started and then turned his back on the family once he was successful. She painted herself as the perfect, long-suffering wife who had sacrificed everything for her family, only to be cruelly cast aside. Her performance was flawless and garnered widespread sympathy. My mother-in-law, Brenda Vance, also became an online celebrity. She went live every day on various short-form video platforms, crying about her daughter's tragic fate and cursing my name. For a while, the mother-daughter duo was all anyone talked about. Every day, Chloe would place the latest public sentiment report on my desk, her expression growing graver each time. Sir, the situation is getting worse. Some of our clients are already proposing to suspend their contracts. If this continues, it could destabilize the entire company. Patience, I said, a faint smile on my lips as I skimmed through the slanderous articles. The fish is about to take the bait. Sir, what do you mean? Chloe asked, puzzled. Look, I pointed to an article. In this interview, Laura claims she gave up her own dreams to support my career, happy to be the woman behind the man. She even says that in the early days of the company, she sold her own jewelry to help with cash flow. That's not true, Chloe immediately refuted. Director Vance worked hard in the beginning, that's true, but she was in charge of admin and HR. You handled all the core business and technical development yourself. As for selling jewelry, I've never heard anything about that. I know it's not true, I smiled, but the public believes it. I then pointed to another document, a transcript of Brenda's live stream. And look at her. She claims she gave me her retirement savings to support me, and now in her old age, I've kicked her out. But you paid her back that money with substantial interest years ago, didn't you? Chloe's brow furrowed even deeper. Exactly, I nodded. The more lies they tell, the more holes they create. The more they build themselves up as saints, the more painful it will be when they fall. I understand. Chloe's eyes widened in realization. You're waiting for the perfect moment, a moment for a fatal blow. Clever. I gave her an appreciative glance. Go on, get the legal team ready. I want them prepared to file lawsuits at a moment's notice. And the bank records I asked you to pull. Any results? Yes. Chloe immediately pulled a few pages from her folder and handed them to me. These are the bank statements for Director Vance and her mother, Brenda Vance, for the last 3 years. We found that Director Vance transferred a sum of money to her mother's account every month, ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. Furthermore, Brenda Vance has over $400,000 in her savings account, in addition to the $200,000 you paid her back. The source of those funds is unclear. Unclear. I took the statements and examined them closely. Soon, I found something interesting. Most of Brenda's unclear savings were transferred from an account belonging to a Kevin Vance. Kevin Vance, Laura's brother. My brother-in-law, a good-for-nothing slacker, in his 30s and still relying on his family to support his lazy lifestyle. I gave him a monthly allowance through Laura, but clearly that wasn't enough for him. I looked closer at Laura's statements. Sure enough, under her expenses, I found numerous large payments listed as project advance payments, supplier invoices, and so on. The recipients were all shell corporations I had never heard of. And after tracing the ownership of these corporations, they all led back to one person, Kevin Vance. The truth was laid bare. Laura had been using her position to embezzle and misappropriate company funds for years, in collusion with her mother and brother. The amount was at least $2.5 million. My hands trembled as I held the statements. I had always thought Laura had only betrayed me emotionally. I never imagined that she had been scheming against me from the start, treating me and my company as her family's personal ATM. Our 5 years of marriage were nothing but a joke to her. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and when I opened them again, they were filled with an icy resolve. Chloe. Yes, sir. Give all of this evidence to the lawyers. Tell them I'm suing Laura and Kevin Vance for embezzlement and Brenda Vance for illegal enrichment. I want them to spit out every single cent they took, and they will face the legal consequences for their actions. Yes, sir. Chloe's eyes flashed. She was clearly disgusted by their shamelessness. Also, I added, compile all the evidence we have, Laura's relationship with Leo Peterson, the fraudulent financial records, the video of Brenda's public disturbance, and the legal notice of our impending lawsuit. Put it all together in a comprehensive package. Contact every media outlet we work with. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock sharp, release it everywhere. She loves to fight her battles in the court of public opinion. Fine. I'll show her what a real media war looks like. I wanted everyone to see the ugly, greedy faces of our entire family. I wanted to transform her from a sympathetic victim into a husband-betraying, embezzling criminal. I was going to ruin her. Understood, sir. Chloe nodded firmly and immediately left to carry out my orders. I was alone in the office. I picked up my phone and found the triumphant text Laura had sent me. I will ruin you. You will lose everything. I let out a cold laugh and typed back 2 words. Bring it. Then I dialed Mr. Miller, the divorce proceedings. Forget about being flexible. My demand is that Laura Vance walks away with absolutely nothing. She showed no mercy, so she should expect none from me. This war was about to end. The next morning, at exactly 10 o'clock, a meticulously planned media storm swept across the internet. Apex Innovations' official social media accounts, along with dozens of major news outlets, simultaneously published a lengthy article titled, "A Clarification and Statement Regarding Recent False Allegations Online." The article was clear, logical, and filled with irrefutable evidence. It was a scalpel, slicing through the web of lies woven by Laura and her mother, exposing the rotten filth within. Part 1 went straight for the heart of the matter. It stated directly that the catalyst for the breakdown of my marriage was Laura's inappropriate behavior with the intern, Leo Peterson, at the company's Thanksgiving gala. It included security camera stills from that night. Though the images were slightly grainy, they clearly showed Laura feeding Leo and the undeniable intimacy between them. But the real bombshell was the information that followed. Leo Peterson's father was Greg Peterson, Laura's college sweetheart. The moment that fact came out, the internet exploded. The same users who had been sympathizing with Laura for being cheated on now felt like complete fools. Holy crap, a plot twist? The wife was the one cheating all along. With her first love son? This is messed up. What kind of sick fantasy is this? No wonder the CEO kissed his assistant. He was disgusted and retaliated on the spot. I called him a scumbag. I take it all back. Who could put up with that? The tide of public opinion reversed in an instant. If that was just the beginning, part 2 was the kill shot. The article detailed with exhaustive evidence how Laura had used her position to set up shell companies, forge project contracts, and embezzle company assets totaling over $2.5 million. Every transaction was backed up by clear bank statements and transfer records. All of that money ended up in the pockets of her brother, Kevin Vance, and her mother, Brenda Vance. The article also included a copy of the official police report receipt, confirming that Apex Innovations had filed a criminal complaint and an investigation was underway. Furthermore, it included copies of the civil lawsuits filed against Laura, Kevin, and Brenda. This sent everyone over the edge. Emotional betrayal was a moral issue, but embezzlement was a crime. Oh my God, $2.5 million. This woman is pure evil, playing the victim to get sympathy while secretly draining her husband's company. The Oscars owe her an award for that performance. Her whole family is a bunch of leeches, right? Using their son-in-law as a cash machine. Go get Mr. Hayes. That entire family belongs in jail. Part 3 addressed Brenda Vance's public tantrum and the rumors she spread online. It included the full, unedited video of her throwing herself on the ground and screaming at security guards, along with the bank records proving I had not only repaid her $50,000 loan, but had given her an extra $150,000 in interest. Finally, there was a cease and desist letter from a top-tier law firm, announcing their intent to sue Brenda and the media outlets that spread her lies for defamation. 3 heavy blows, each one landing with devastating force. The online mob that had been cheering for Laura and her mother now felt the sting of humiliation. Furious, they turned their weapons on their former heroes, flooding Laura's and Brenda's social media accounts and live streams. Liar, I want my sympathy back. Spit out the money you stole. Go to prison. I've seen shameless people before, but never a whole family of them. The abuse and accusations washed over them like a tidal wave. Laura's social media account was so overwhelmed that she was forced to disable comments. Brenda Vance started her live stream only to be met with a wall of liar and get out comments that crashed her broadcast within minutes. She logged off in a panic. When the walls come down, everyone pushes. The same media outlets that had championed them now scrambled to distance themselves, deleting their old articles and publishing new ones condemning their deceit. The public spectacle they had orchestrated had, in the end, consumed them in the most brutal way imaginable. I sat in my office, watching it all unfold with a calm demeanor. Chloe stood beside me, a look of grim satisfaction on her face. Sir, a decisive victory. This is just the beginning, I said, taking a sip of tea. Send a message out. I'm calling a meeting of all senior executives at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Of course. Chloe acknowledged the order, but then hesitated. Sir, there's something. I'm not sure if I should mention it. Speak. It's about Leo Peterson. Wallace, let him go. But Leo said he needs to see you. He says he has something important to tell you about Director Vance. Leo. I frowned. In this whole storm, the kid seemed like a pawn, used and discarded. My feelings about him were complicated. Did he say what it was about? No, only that it's extremely important, and he'll only tell you. Send him up, I said after a moment's thought. I decided to see him. Perhaps he could offer some unexpected surprises. Half an hour later, Leo was shown into my office. He looked even more haggard and anxious than the last time I'd seen him, his face etched with guilt. Mr. Hayes. As soon as he entered, he gave me a deep bow. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I watched him. I shouldn't have. I knew Director Vance was your wife, and I still. He looked down, his voice filled with regret. I was weak. It's too late for that now. My tone remained flat. I know. He looked up, a resolute expression in his eyes. I know I was wrong, and I'm ready to face the consequences. I came to you today because I need to tell you something. A secret about Director Vance and one of our most important clients. An important client? My interest was piqued. Yes. Leo took a small digital recorder from his bag and placed it on my desk. This is a recording of a phone call I had with Director Vance a few days ago. She thought you were about to be destroyed by the media backlash, so she got arrogant and let something slip. I picked up the recorder and pressed play. Soon, the voices of Laura and Leo filled the room. Laura's voice was dripping with triumph and malice. That fool Ethan thinks this is just a little drama? I'm telling you, this is just the appetizer. I haven't even played my trump card yet. Once public opinion completely destroys him, I'm going to contact Mr. Sterling at Sterling Corp. I'm holding an ace, you see. What ace, Laura? Leo's voice asked. Huh, why do you think Sterling Corp became our biggest client, giving us nearly $20 million in revenue every year? It's because my relationship with Mr. Sterling is special. Back then, to land that account, I had to pay a very high price. To this day, Ethan has no idea that he has me to thank for his success. I had to persuade Mr. Sterling in bed. All I have to do is leak this to Sterling's wife. And what do you think he'll do to keep things quiet? He'll terminate his contract with Apex immediately. The company's stock will plummet, and Ethan will be completely finished. Ha ha. The recording ended. My office was utterly silent. My hand clenched around the recorder, the veins on my knuckles standing out. An unspeakable coldness and disgust shot up from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. Mr. Sterling of Sterling Corp. Of course I knew him. Our company's biggest client, a senior figure in the business world whom I had always respected. It was true that Laura had made the initial introduction that got us in the door with Sterling Corp. I had always believed it was our product and our proposal that had won him over. I never imagined the truth was this filthy transaction. So, the horns I was wearing weren't a recent addition. They had been there for years. The career I was so proud of, the empire I had built with my own two hands, was founded on the sale of my wife's body. The irony, the humiliation, puffed. I couldn't hold it back any longer. A mouthful of blood sprayed from my lips, staining the documents on my desk. Sir, Chloe's cry pulled me back from the abyss. She rushed over, fumbling for tissues to wipe the blood from my mouth, her voice trembling. Are you okay? I'm calling an ambulance. Don't, I said, waving her off. The physical pain was nothing compared to the wound in my soul. I leaned back in my chair, feeling as if all my strength had been drained away. The ultimate humiliation wasn't the piece of tiramisu at the gala. It was the realization that my success, the very foundation of my pride, was rotten from the start. I thought I was a self-made man who had built a business empire. In the end, I was just a joke. A pathetic fool whose company was built on orders his wife secured in another man's bed. Leo stood by, pale with fright, wringing his hands. Mr. Hayes, I didn't mean to. I didn't look at him. My eyes were fixed on the black recorder on the desk. It was like Pandora's box, unleashing the vilest secret, crushing the last shred of my dignity into dust. Seeing my deteriorating state, Chloe ignored my protests and reached for the phone. I grabbed her hand. I'm fine, I said, looking at her, enunciating each word. I'm not going to die, but your health. Help me up. Chloe hesitated, but did as I asked, helping me to my feet. I stood straight, though my legs were still trembling slightly. I walked over to Leo. He stumbled backward in fear. Mr. Hayes, you gave me this recording to try and make amends? I asked him. I just thought you deserved to know the truth, Leo mumbled, looking at the floor. Director Vance. She's a monster. Yes, she is. I repeated softly, as if to myself. I looked at the young man before me, a storm of emotions churning inside. He had revealed this brutal truth to me. but he had also been a part of the betrayal that started it all. Are there any other copies of this recording? No, that's the only one. I nodded, took out my checkbook from my jacket, wrote a check for $10,000, and held it out to him. Take this, leave Seattle, and never come back, and never have any contact with Laura Vance again. Leo stared at the check, not taking it. Mr. Hayes, I don't want money. This isn't a reward, I said, stuffing the check into his hand. It's hush money. I never want to hear a single word about this from anyone, anywhere. Do you understand me? The look in my eyes terrified him. He shuddered and nodded vigorously. I understand, Mr. Hayes. I won't say a word. Get out. I waved my hand, dismissing him like a fly. Leo, as if granted a pardon, scrambled out of my office with the check. The door closed, shutting out the world. I couldn't stand any longer. My body went limp, and I collapsed onto the sofa. Chloe brought me a glass of warm water. Sir, drink some water. I didn't take it, just stared blankly ahead. Chloe. Yes. Tell me, am I a failure? Chloe was silent. She didn't know what to say. I thought I had everything under control. My career, my family. It was all a lie. I thought if I gave her the best life, she'd be happy. But she was betraying me, scheming against me, from the very beginning. Everything I worked so hard to build, it was all just a house of cards built on a dirty secret. I spoke, one sentence at a time, my voice a mixture of accusation and self-loathing. At the end, I couldn't help but laugh. The laughter grew louder, more frantic, more desperate. And then the tears came. A man who was a titan in the boardroom, who never backed down from a fight, was now crying like a child. Chloe didn't try to comfort me. She just stood by my side, quietly handing me tissues. When my emotions had subsided somewhat, she spoke softly. Sir, this is not your fault. You built this company with your own 2 hands. Even without Sterling Corp. With your ability, Apex Innovations would have succeeded. It was just a matter of time. You are not a failure. Laura is the failure. She was unworthy of your success, and she was unworthy of your love. Her words were a warm current, seeping into my frozen heart. I looked up at her. Her eyes held no pity, only a steady, unwavering belief in me. Thank you, Chloe. You're my boss, she replied simply. Yes, she was my assistant. In my most humiliating, most broken moment, she was the only one still standing by my side. I wiped my tears and got to my feet again. Sent out the notice. The afternoon meeting is happening as scheduled. Sir, your health. I'm fine. My voice had regained its usual calm and resolve. The sky isn't falling. Laura thought her trump card would destroy me. She was wrong. It would only make me stronger. I would not be broken by this. I would personally erase this stain from my career. Sterling Corp. will be permanently removed from my client list. Even if it meant the company would suffer a massive blow. Even if it meant my own net worth would plummet. I didn't care. I wanted a clean business empire. An empire that belonged to Ethan Hayes and Ethan Hayes alone. At 3 o'clock, the executive meeting began on time. When I walked into the conference room, everyone stood up. Their expressions were a mixture of awe and curiosity. They had all seen the storm online. They wanted to know what their CEO, fresh from a massive public scandal, would do next. I walked to the head of the table and sat down, my gaze sweeping over every person in the room. I assume everyone is aware of this morning's events. I began, getting straight to the point. The room was silent. My apologies for airing my dirty laundry in public. I gave a self-deprecating smile. Then my tone shifted. But personal matters are personal, and business is business. I've called you all here today to announce an important decision. Everyone held their breath. Effective immediately, Apex Innovations will be unilaterally terminating all contracts and partnerships with Sterling Corp. My words were bombshell. The room erupted in shocked disbelief. Mr. Hayes, you can't. The CFO was the first to jump up. Sterling Corp. is our largest client. They account for nearly 30% of our annual revenue. If we terminate the contract, our stock will plummet, and our cash flow will be in serious trouble. Yes, Mr. Hayes, please reconsider, the director of sales pleaded. Our relationship with Sterling has always been excellent. Why the sudden termination? Is there some misunderstanding with Mr. Sterling? There is no misunderstanding. I cut them off. This is my decision. But why? There is no why. My tone was absolute. I only want results. Starting tomorrow, I don't want to see the name Sterling Corp. on any of this company's business reports ever again. Mr. Hayes, anyone who disagrees can submit their resignation now. I scanned the room, my gaze like ice. The conference room fell silent once more. Everyone was stunned by my decisiveness and my iron will. They couldn't understand why I would make such a self-destructive, insane decision. But I knew I had to. I could not tolerate my business being tainted by anyone else's contribution, especially not one secured in such a humiliating way. Meeting adjourned. I threw down the 2 words and left the room, leaving behind a group of stunned executives staring at each other, completely bewildered. I knew this decision would cause the company immense pain, but it was better to rip the bandage off quickly. I had to prove to everyone, and to myself, that I, Ethan Hayes, could succeed without anyone's help. And Apex Innovations could thrive without Sterling Corp. In fact, it would thrive even more. The decision to cut ties with Sterling Corp sent shockwaves through the company. The next morning, when the market opened, Apex's stock price plunged, hitting the circuit breaker within half an hour of opening. The market was in a panic. All sorts of speculation and negative analyses ran rampant. Many believed that Apex Innovations, having alienated its biggest client and been rocked by its founder's family scandal, was on the verge of collapse. The company's phones rang off the hook. Investors calling for information, suppliers demanding payment, and even competitors looking to pick off our core assets at a discount. A sense of doom hung over the entire company. The executives were worried sick, and the employees were on edge. Only 2 people remained calm, me and Chloe. We continued to handle our duties as if nothing was wrong. Sir, here's the latest stock chart. We've hit the limit down for 3 consecutive days, Chloe said, placing a report on my desk. Her voice held a note of concern. If this continues, we could be facing a forced delisting. I know. I looked at the cliff-like downward curve on the chart, my face impassive. Any word from the board? Several of the board members have joined together to demand an emergency meeting. They want a reasonable explanation for this. Strategic error. As expected, I sneered. These were the same people who sat on the sidelines when I desperately needed funding in the early days. Now that the company was public, they showed up to reap the rewards, becoming board members who did nothing but collect dividends. They sang my praises when times were good, but at the first sign of trouble, they were ready to throw me under the bus. Tell them the emergency board meeting will be held the day after tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. Sir, do you have a plan? Chloe couldn't help but ask. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I looked up at her and asked, Are you scared? No. Chloe shook her head, her eyes firm. I trust you, sir. Her trust was like a light, illuminating the darkness in my heart. Good, I nodded. I need you to prepare an assessment report on our core technology patents, as well as the business plans for the new projects we have in R&D. I'm going to give them a surprise at the board meeting. Yes, sir. After Chloe left, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Ethan, a deep, authoritative male voice came from the other end. It was Mr. Sterling. He couldn't stay quiet any longer. Mr. Sterling, to what do I owe the pleasure? My tone was calm. Pleasure is hardly the word for it. Sterling's voice was tinged with annoyance. I just want to know, what is the meaning of this? Unilaterally tearing up our contracts, ending all cooperation. Did Sterling Corp do something to offend you? You're overthinking it, Mr. Sterling, I said flatly. This is simply an internal strategic adjustment. It has nothing to do with your company. Strategic adjustment? Sterling scoffed. Ethan, let's not play games. You've caused this much chaos, sent your own company's stock into a nosedive, all for a strategic adjustment? Do you really think I believe that? Whether you believe it or not is your business. Ethan, Sterling's voice hardened. I've always admired you. I considered you a friend. When your company was in trouble, I didn't kick you when you were down. And now you turn around and stab me in the back? Is that how you do business? Business? I repeated the word, the irony thick in my voice. Mr. Sterling, are you and I really in a position to talk about how to do business? The line went silent. He clearly understood my meaning. You know, he asked tentatively. Some things have a way of coming out, I replied coldly. Another long silence. I could picture the look on his face. He thought that secret would be buried forever. Ethan, that woman Laura, she did it willingly. It had nothing to do with me, he finally said, trying to absolve himself. Really? I laughed humorlessly. The wife of a small startup owner, desperate for a contract, and a business tycoon holding a multi-million-dollar deal. You're telling me it was willing? I have no interest in dredging up the past. My voice was like ice. I'm calling you to inform you of one thing. What is it? I have a recording of my wife detailing your filthy arrangement. If you'd like your wife, your competitors, and the entire world to hear it, I would be more than happy to release it. Are you threatening me? Sterling's voice erupted in fury. This isn't a threat. It's a notification, I said, enunciating every word. From now on, you and I go our separate ways. We owe each other nothing, and it's best if we never see each other again. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that recording won't be accidentally leaked. I hung up before he could respond. I knew Sterling wouldn't call my bluff. A man of his stature had far more to lose from a scandal than just a business partnership. This was over. I let out a long breath, feeling a massive weight lift from my chest. The price was steep, but it was worth it. 2 days later, the Apex Innovations Emergency Board meeting. The atmosphere in the conference room was heavy. The directors, led by the second largest shareholder, Mr. Reed, all looked grim. I walked in, and all eyes turned to me. Mr. Hayes, you're finally here, Reed said with a sarcastic edge. Perhaps you'd care to explain to all of us why, at the company's most difficult moment, you would make a self-destructive decision like terminating our partnership with Sterling. Yes, Mr. Hayes, your decision was far too reckless. The company's stock has plummeted, and we've lost billions in market value. You must be held accountable for this mistake. Another director chimed in. Accountable? And how would you like me to be accountable? I pulled out my chair and sat down, surveying the room. We demand that you resign as CEO immediately. You must take responsibility for this catastrophic loss. Reed slammed his hand on the table, his true intentions revealed. Resign? I laughed. Mr. Reed, have you forgotten who the majority shareholder of this company is? I decide who gets to be CEO. You may be the majority shareholder, but you can't act unilaterally and drive this company into the ground. Reed declared righteously. All of us on the board have agreed. If you don't resign, we will jointly report you to the SEC for damaging the interests of the company and its shareholders. It was a coup. They thought they had me cornered, that they could force me out and carve up my empire for themselves. How naive. Are you finished? I asked calmly after they had all had their say. I motioned for Chloe to distribute the file she had prepared to every director present. Before you demand my resignation, perhaps you should take a look at this. The directors skeptically opened the folders. The first page was the technology patent certificate for the company's newly developed Polaris AI chip. The second page was the draft agreement for a partnership with 3 of the nation's top auto manufacturers, who plan to use the autonomous driving system developed based on the Polaris chip. The third page was a detailed overview of the company's next-gen battery project, a secret initiative 3 years in the making. Its energy density already surpassed every competing product on the market. Once it hit mass production, it would revolutionize the entire industry. Page after page, document after document. Each project was enough to ignite the capital markets. Each patent was worth a fortune. The only sounds in the room were the increasingly heavy breathing of the directors and the rustling of paper. The expressions on their faces shifted from contempt to shock, and finally, to wild excitement and greed. They finally understood why I had dared to drop Sterling Corp. Because I was holding a royal flush. Gentlemen, I broke the silence. Compared to these projects, the revenue from Sterling Corp. is pocket change. I think we can all see that now. I cut ties with Sterling to shed dead weight, to prepare the company to soar to new, greater heights. Now, do you still think I should resign? I leaned back in my chair, watching him squirm. Reed's face turned from red to white, a picture of pure embarrassment. He never imagined I had so many aces up my sleeve. His dream of a corporate takeover had just been shattered. Mr. Hayes, we were just concerned for the company. We were afraid you. He stammered, trying to backpedal. Concerned for the company? I cut him off. Mr. Reed, do you need me to publicly announce your backroom dealings with headhunters to try and poach our core engineering team? The blood drained from Reed's face. And you, Mr. Davis, should I have our legal department discuss the illegal collateralization of your company shares for a personal loan? And you, Mr. Should. With every name I called, a director paled. I knew about all their dirty little secrets. I was just waiting for the right moment to clean house. And that moment was now. You are all veterans of this company. I had intended to let you save face. My voice grew cold. But since you have no shame, you leave me no choice. Chloe. Yes, sir. Notify legal and internal affairs. I want a full investigation into these board members. Any actions found to have harmed the company's interests will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. No exceptions. Yes, sir. The targeted directors slumped in their chairs, their faces ashen. They knew it was over. As for the shares you hold, I looked at them as if they were already dead. I am prepared to acquire them all at a 20% premium over today's closing price. You can do this gracefully, or I can help you. It was a final ultimatum. Reed and the others exchanged desperate glances. They had no room to negotiate. I'll sell. Reed was the first to speak, his voice hoarse. Once the first one broke, the rest followed. Soon, all the directors who had attempted the coup had signed over their shares. A carefully orchestrated power play had ended in my absolute victory. From this day forward, Apex Innovations would truly be my kingdom. No one would ever challenge my decisions again. After clearing out the parasites from the boardroom, I had complete control of Apex Innovations. Now it was time for the counterattack. I had Chloe strategically release selected information about our game-changing projects to the market. The news sent the financial world into a frenzy. No one had expected that Apex Innovations, a company many believed was on the brink of collapse, was hiding such incredible potential. AI chips, autonomous driving, next-gen batteries. Each one a hot-ticket item for the next decade. After days of freefall, Apex's stock price staged a revenge rally. It hit the limit up for more than a dozen consecutive days, soaring past its previous highs and setting new records. The company's market capitalization doubled. The analysts who had been predicting our doom were now tripping over themselves to praise us, labeling Apex the most valuable tech investment of the decade. The competitors who had been circling like vultures could only watch in awe, and the retail investors who had panic sold their shares were kicking themselves. I had proven my strength with a stunning comeback. Apex Innovations didn't need anyone to survive. In fact, it was better off. At the same time, the fate of Laura's family was sealed. Found guilty of embezzlement, Laura and her brother Kevin were arrested. They were facing long prison sentences. Due to the massive sum of money involved, all of Laura's assets, including the house and the $2 million I had initially offered her, were seized by the court to repay the company. She had schemed her whole life, only to end up with nothing in a prison cell. The irony was palpable. My ex-mother-in-law, Brenda Vance, was also found guilty for her role in the scheme and received a suspended sentence. Additionally, she was ordered to issue a public apology to me and Chloe for slander and paid damages for emotional distress. I heard that when the verdict came down, she had a stroke and was left partially paralyzed, her face drooping, her speech slurred. I wondered if, lying in her hospital bed in the middle of the night, she ever regretted her actions. As for Mr. Sterling of Sterling Corp., the day after my phone call, he voluntarily terminated all legal disputes with Apex and paid a hefty penalty for breach of contract. He was scared. He didn't want to risk me releasing that recording. The storm that had started with a piece of tiramisu had finally passed. Everyone who had betrayed and hurt me had paid the price. I had won, decisively. 1 month later, the divorce was finalized. Laura and I were officially done. As I walked out of the courthouse, the sun was shining. I looked up at the brilliant blue sky and felt a profound sense of relief. Chloe was waiting for me by the car. All done, sir. Yes. I got into the passenger seat. And starting today, don't call me sir anymore. Chloe froze for a second, her hands tightening on the steering wheel. Then, what should I call you? I turned and looked at her. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft glow on her delicate profile. In the past few months, she had been with me through the darkest period of my life. She had stood by me as I fought back, as I climbed back to the top. Our relationship had long since evolved beyond that of a boss and an assistant. Call me Ethan. A faint blush crept up Chloe's cheeks. She didn't say anything, just gave a small nod. The car started, merging smoothly into traffic. Where to? I asked her. The office. Not today, I shook my head. Today, we're going to celebrate. Celebrate. Celebrate my new life. And celebrate having you by my side. I didn't say the last part out loud, but we both knew. Okay, Chloe smiled. Her smile was as bright and warm as the sun. I took her to a new French restaurant. We chose a table by the window, with a view overlooking the entire city. Ethan, Chloe raised her glass. Congratulations. I should be thanking you. I raised my glass as well, clinking it gently against hers. Chloe, thank you for always being there for me. Chloe's gaze flickered away, as if she wanted to say something but held back. What is it? Nothing. She shook her head and took a sip of wine, as if steeling herself. A moment later, she looked up, her eyes serious. Ethan, there's something I've been keeping from you. What is it? Her grave expression made my heart skip a beat. Do you remember why you had the courage to cut ties with Sterling Corp? It was because you had the Polaris chip, the next-gen battery project. You had aces up your sleeve. Right. But have you ever stopped to think about how those top-tier, future-defining projects came to be at Apex Innovations in the first place? I froze. I had always assumed our own R&D team developed them under my leadership. While I was always amazed by their creativity, I had never once questioned the origin of the projects. Weren't they developed in-house? Yes and no. Chloe's expression was complex. The core technological frameworks and theoretical foundations for all those projects. They came from one person. Who? My father. My mind went blank. Your father? Yes. Chloe nodded and began to tell me a story I never knew. My father was a scientist. He dedicated his entire life to research in artificial intelligence and new energy. These projects were his life's work. 3 years ago, he passed away from exhaustion. Before he died, he entrusted all of his research materials to me. But I was just a fresh college graduate with theoretical knowledge and no power to turn his brilliant ideas into reality. I needed a platform. I needed a leader with the ability, the courage, and the integrity I could trust. So I came to Apex Innovations. I came to you. I took a job as an ordinary assistant so I could observe you, test you. And step by step, I integrated my father's research into the company's R&D pipeline. I listened, stunned into silence. I had always seen Chloe as just an exceptionally competent assistant. I never imagined she was carrying such a monumental secret. I was the one being tested, the one being chosen. Then, why are you only telling me this now? I asked, my voice strained. Because you passed the test. Chloe looked at me, her eyes shining. At the company's darkest hour, you didn't compromise. You chose to cut off a limb to save the body, severing that dirty partnership. You proved that you're a leader with principles, with integrity. You are worthy of my father's work, and you have the ability to lead it to a glorious future. So, that kiss at the gala, something clicked in my mind. It was an accident, but it was also driven by my feelings. Chloe blushed. Even before then, I had already fallen for you. I looked at her, my heart a whirlwind of emotions. Shock, gratitude, and a sliver of fear. If I had chosen to compromise with Sterling to swallow my pride, I would have lost not just Chloe, but the entire future of Apex Innovations. Chloe, I reached out and took her hand. It was cool to the touch and trembling slightly. I had so much to say, but all the words swirling in my head condensed into a single promise. From now on, let me protect you and your father's dream. Chloe's eyes welled up. She nodded hard. Outside the window, the city lights began to sparkle against the twilight sky. I knew our story was just beginning. 1 year later, Thanksgiving, the rooftop garden of the Apex Innovations Tower had been transformed into a cozy party space. Gone was the massive, phony gala of the previous year. This time, I had only invited the company's core team, a few dozen executives and key engineers, and their families. People sat around, grilling, drinking beer, and chatting. The atmosphere was relaxed and happy. In the past year, Apex Innovations had achieved a business miracle. The Polaris chip went into mass production, breaking foreign technology monopolies and becoming a sought-after component by top tech firms worldwide. Cars equipped with our autonomous driving systems were now a common sight on streets across the country. And our next-gen batteries, with their superior performance and safety, had completely upended the industry. The company's market cap had surpassed $1 trillion. And I, Ethan Hayes, had gone from a successful entrepreneur to a global tech icon. And behind it all was one person. I turned my head to look at Chloe, who was laughing with a few female colleagues. She wore a pale yellow dress, her long hair flowing over her shoulders, her face glowing under the party lights. She was so beautiful it took my breath away. She was no longer my assistant. After restructuring the board, I had pushed through her appointment as Chief Technology Officer, giving her full control over all R&D. Some had doubted her at first, but when she led the team to conquer one technical challenge after another, with her profound knowledge and visionary insight, she won everyone over. She had earned their respect. Now, she was Apex's undisputed tech goddess, an idol for countless young engineers. As if sensing my gaze, Chloe turned and gave me a sweet smile. I smiled back. What are you looking at? She walked over and handed me a beer, looking at my wife. Is that a problem? I took the beer and slipped my arm around her waist. We had gotten married 6 months ago in a small, private ceremony with just close family and friends. Chloe blushed slightly and gave me a playful look. We're in public. What's there to be afraid of? I leaned in and whispered in her ear. They're used to it by now. It was true. Everyone at the company knew their CEO was shamelessly, completely smitten with his wife. Chloe leaned her head on my shoulder, looking out at the glittering city skyline. Ethan, do you remember this day last year? She asked softly. How could I forget? I took a sip of beer, my gaze distant. Last year on this day, my life had hit rock bottom. I had faced betrayal, humiliation, and abandonment. I thought my world was collapsing. But it was also on that day that my life truly began. If it weren't for that piece of tiramisu, maybe we'd still just be boss and assistant. So, sometimes I think maybe I should thank Laura. Don't. I cut her off immediately, a look of disgust on my face. Just saying her name is bad luck. Chloe laughed at my expression. Okay. We won't mention her. I'd heard updates about Laura from Mr. Miller. She was a problem inmate. Her sentence repeatedly extended for rule violations. Her brother, Kevin, couldn't handle prison life and had a mental breakdown. As for her mother, Brenda, she remained paralyzed after her stroke. After a few months, her relatives grew tired of caring for her and put her in the cheapest nursing home they could find. A tragic end for a tragic family. I felt nothing about it. They had sown the seeds of their own destruction. By the way, I have something to tell you, Chloe said suddenly, her expression turning mysterious. What is it? Close your eyes first. Puzzled, I did as she asked. I felt her soft hands cover mine. Then, something small and cool was placed in my palm. You can open them now. I opened my eyes and looked down. Lying in my hand was a small pregnancy test. On it were 2 clear pink lines. My mind went blank for a few seconds. I shot my head up, looking at Chloe in disbelief. Is this? My voice was trembling. Chloe smiled and nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. Ethan, you're going to be a father. Boom! An explosion of joy, like a tsunami, washed over me. I pulled Chloe into a tight embrace, too overwhelmed to speak. I was going to be a father. Chloe and I were going to have a child. This is amazing. This is amazing. I repeated the words, unable to form any other thought. Our colleagues noticed the commotion and gathered around. When they saw the pregnancy test, the rooftop erupted in thunderous cheers and applause. Congratulations, Mr. Hayes. Way to go, boss. You too, Mrs. Hayes. Looks like Apex is getting a little prince or princess next year. I held Chloe, surrounded by the well wishes of our friends, grinning like an idiot. I felt that in this moment my life was truly complete. A career I loved, a wife I adored, and a child on the way. What more could a man ask for? My love. I leaned down and pressed a deep kiss to Chloe's forehead. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me in my darkest hour. Thank you for bringing me into the light, for giving me hope. Thank you for giving me a complete and perfect home. Chloe didn't speak, just buried her head in my chest, a look of pure happiness on her face. In the distance, a bright, full moon hung in the night sky. Last year's moon witnessed betrayal and an end. This year's moon witnessed a new beginning and a perfect circle.